Hello and welcome to Fergie's Gum, a Manchester United podcast. I am Nathan and I'm joined today, as always, with my good friend Ahmed.
Good morning, Nathan.
A very tired Ahmed, who's been on an airport run this morning.
Yeah, just chauffeur duties as usual.
It's good. It's good, mate. Good to have an extra job. The
Unpaid job.
unpaid job, family chauffeuring, I should add,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
The since the last time we spoke, we've had another two games. The games are coming quick, thick and fast at the moment, and a mixed bag of results. Although the consistency between the two of them, a collapse in many respects, has been consistent. So the inconsistencies have been consistent. We are recording on Saturday morning, just before the what game is it tomorrow? It's the Villa game, isn't it?
Yep.
We're fresh off the Porto result, but I think we should go a bit further back to the actual Spurs result and the capitulation which happened there. I mean, I've got plenty of things to say about that, but what was your view about that game? Because it was a absolute disaster, right?
Yeah, it was definitely one of the. I've been thinking about that. Everyone's like, this is probably the worst half we've had under Ten Hag, or I don't know, the one of the worst halves we've seen under for United since Fergie left. But I'm not sure. Like we've had so many bad results, so many bad, way too many bad games that it doesn't even. I don't know. I'm numb to it. It was very bad. The first half was very bad. The second half was awful. I told you last week on the podcast, if we concede first, yeah, might as well just turn on the TV off, just save our time.
Mm,
And that's
mm.
exactly what happened. We didn't even last a minute. So yeah.
It was a disaster, and I agree with what you're saying. There's been so many terrible results and so many terrible halves of football since Ferguson left that they do kind of all blend into one. But this one really did seem like the first half, the first 45 minutes really did feel like it was absolutely turgid. Just the worst type of football I've seen. We've all played football. I mean, a majority of our listeners will have played football to some capacity, and even when you compare it to the standards that we play, it was poor. Gary Neville rightly brought up the fact on Sky Sports that there's teams playing on pitches in Salford right now that are playing at a better standard than Manchester United because they were all over the place. They were just looking for individual brilliance from each other. They weren't tracking back. I think it's harsh to blame single players for that first goal, but because I've seen Rashford's been blamed for it for his poor touch. I've seen Garnacho's been blamed for it for not getting back. I've seen Dalot being blamed for it, which rightly so because he didn't even track Brennan Johnson. And I've seen just as a team, you start blaming these individuals. As a team, you look at it and it was a team effort. That goal was a team effort. And Mickey van der Ven, is it Mickey van der Ven?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Like he's a really fast runner. I think he was like the fastest in the Premier League last season anyway. But there was just nothing stopping him. He just ran into acres of space like a racehorse going into the final furlongs. And it was so easy. By the time he
It
got
was
to
easy.
Delit, by the time he got to Delit and Martinez, I mean, not even Martinez, by the time he got to that back line, the 18-yard box, it had just opened up for him so much. And that pass across the box is such a video game style goal to score, and we couldn't defend it. It was embarrassing. And then beyond that, it just kept getting worse and nothing was going right. Bruno gets sent off. Second time, it's been overturned, obviously, but second time in two games, we'll get to that one in a second. They just look completely disjointed in that Spurs game. And it looked worrying.
I think the signs have been there in I don't know, in separate occasions in different games this season. Even in the games where we've played well, there was um parts of the game where there is still something off. Uh, of course, we've seen it mostly against FC 20, the game before Spurs. So the signs have been there. Maybe we've been trying to overlook them, to be like more optimistic. But yeah, like since the first game of the season, if we're honest, we can go back to the first game against Fulham. It was not good enough.
But
If it was,
what do you sorry, but
yeah.
what do you think the reason for that is then? Like if you do go all the way back to that Fulham game, what there's obviously early signs, I completely agree, but what do you think is the main issue here then?
So I'd say it's coaching mostly. And like new players integrating into the team, finding their rhythm, new country, new team, new system. Probably the whole dynamic of the coaching staff has changed since last season. Maybe they're getting used to that. So you would give them the benefit of the doubt for the first few games against Fulham. Okay, we won. We played well. The first half was okay. So you can see there are signs of things getting better. Crystal Palace was another game that you could say, yeah, we can see what they're actually working on. But maybe we just use these to mask over what actually is going on. Personally, I feel like I've been probably just trying to convince myself that it is getting better. There is something that we're working towards. So we have to like stick with the manager because we've seen what happened with previous managers, and like not changing the
Mm.
manager isn't always the solution. We'll get to that later. With this team, I think it's just like the inconsistencies of the players. Their form is off. Maybe they're not grasping the manager's, I don't know, what do you call it, like the manager's philosophy.
Yeah.
But like you can't say that in his third season. I don't. We can't keep on saying that it's his third season and they're mostly his players, and we still see the same. We're so easy to play against. We're way too easy to
Mm.
play against, and this is not something that is impossible to change. Like we've seen lower division teams that have had like a manager come in and change everything within like a week or two. It's not that
Mm.
difficult. So I don't know. I wouldn't blame someone specifically, but I just put it on the manager partly, and of course I wouldn't not blame the players because they're the ones out there.
I think you're right. I think it's difficult to just put it all on Ten Hag, and as you said before, we'll get to that in a second, in the next section. But there has to be some sort of responsibility from his part where he has spent an awful lot of money now. Like there's no escaping that. And he talked last season, he talked about getting his team right. There's still players there that weren't part of his original squad or that he didn't want there. Tried our best to get rid of like the likes of Maguire, McTominay, all of these fringe players that were allegedly not his players, not his style of players. Now those excuses have gone. The injury excuses have gone, apart from Shaw and Malacia. And that left side is a problem. I do agree. But now that those issues have gone, Delit and Martinez, who have played together, they played together before, right? Did their paths cross at
Yeah,
Ajax?
they did. Yeah, they did.
They they looked like strangers. They looked slow. They looked short of ideas. I think in the second half, Martinez became, he always treads that line of combative and just being an irritant, let's say. And
Hmm.
I think the second half of the Spurs game, he was definitely leaning towards the petulant side of things where he was just stupid little fouls and niggles and things like that. Obviously, he's trying to overcompensate to win the game because they're already 2-0 down straight after half time. None of the players came out of it well. None of the players came out of that game well. It's mental fragility. Like
Yeah.
let's go. We can go to the Porto game because we see the same things happening again. We
Hmm.
see the same things. We see that the first sign of adversity and they crumble completely. 2-0 up, cruising, everything's fine. And then they somehow the game ends up, we have to wait for a last minute header from Harry Maguire from a corner, from a set piece to get a draw out of a game we was winning 2-0 because they just cannot cope with pressure. They cannot cope with it. There's so many mentally fragile players in there. I'm not going to blame players like De Ligt or Mazraoui because I believe they're coming into a team where they've arrived at a dressing room and they've gone, what is this? Like literally, how is it this bad? How is it this bad? The big issue that I always see, Mainu's not had a great start to the season. Ericsson has had decent start to the season, but he's never going to be able to fill that gap in midfield. Ugarte is the jury is still out on him. He's only played a few games, but he looks off it completely.
Yeah.
Casemiro, his legs have gone. I don't think they're going to come back anytime soon. But so then what you're getting is there's no midfield. Any game, if you go back and watch any of the games that we played so far, there's no midfield. So it is basically fresh legs, a run at that back four. Fresh legs. There's no having to think beyond the midfield. It's attackers just having fresh legs to run at De Ligt, run at Martinez, run at Dalot, run at Mazraoui. And usually you kind of break them down. If you watch like teams like City or Liverpool or even like, teams like Juventus, Real Madrid, they force the issue further up the pitch. So they're making the players have to work really hard with the press. Our press isn't working from the top. By the time it gets to midfield, there's no one there. So it's just attacker versus defender, 100% effort both ways. And the attackers tend to win because Martinez and De Ligt aren't very fast. And it's every game.
Exactly. Yeah. On that note, I think so. That I agree 100% with what you were saying. Like Ten Hag is trying to implement the system of pressing from the front, and it's not working. Because if you want to do that, you have to make sure that your midfield and defenders they all can cover the ground. They all can recover whatever if it breaks that line. So like the teams you've mentioned, City, Liverpool, for example, if you compare their defenders to ours, even their midfielders, all of them are athletic. All of them can cover ground easily. You can't compare Van Dijk to Lisandro, for example. You can't compare Konate to De Ligt. You can't compare, I don't know, McAllister to Casemiro. So if you want to play that system, then I don't know, recruit players that fit that system, and you don't have those players yet. So why would you keep insisting and playing that system? So like we were talking before, like, well, what's the issue with United? I think one of the main issues is the manager doesn't play to fit his players' capabilities. Like he doesn't play the system that fits his players' capabilities. He plays his system and he hopes the players can actually do it. But we've seen for way too long now, it's not working. The only time we were actually playing well is in his first season when he actually like just gave up on his uh, philosophy and he just played that Casemiro, Ericsson, Bruno midfield. Even Fred used to play a lot, and we used to control the game. We didn't have to press high up the pitch. We kept the most clean sheets in the league. And I don't know, we did really well. We were third in the league, I think. We won the Carabao Cup. So, but that was when he wasn't actually playing the system he's been trying to play last season and this season, which is when he bought Mount because he's a player that presses, he keeps on running. And that's probably why he keeps using Mount as an excuse. Even this season, when we started the season with Mount playing up front in the Brighton game and the Fulham game. And it was working, to be fair. It was working more. But yeah, ever since he got injured, he kept on playing the system. Playing Xerxes and Bruno. And it's not working. And I don't know, even against Porto, when his job is on the line, he was still trying to play the same thing. And we saw it just doesn't work. And I think he just needs to, we said before that his downfall is gonna be his stubbornness.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And
it
I think
proves,
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the issue, and I think he's unable to shift his ideas, and he's unable to get the best out of these players. Because I think if another coach came in, they would perform in a different way. They would take a look at these players and they would say, right, okay, this is how we're going to do things. But I think, and I said this last week, Ten Hag is so far into the job now, and he's so entrenched in the pressure that comes from all sides. No matter what he says, no matter how he comes back in the press, he has pressure from every single angle now. And the way that he's coping with that pressure is by digging his heels in until his tactics work, until a miracle happens and his tactics work and finally pays off and they get a big win over a rival. And I said last week, it was either going to go against Spurs, it was either going to go 100% perfect or 100% wrong. There was no in between with this at all. And it went
Yeah.
100% wrong. And he stood there on the sidelines, like shaking his head. And you're looking at it going, what? What's surprising you about any of this? And I don't want this to be a complete doom cast, because we're going to be talking about Ten Hag in a second as well. So bright sparks out of this, and I know this sounds like it's desperate times, but bright sparks out of this. Rashford finding his feet again, a potent force from the left, right? I will take the fact that he has managed to score a few goals over not scoring a few goals, right? I'm desperately scraping the barrel. Okay.
Yeah.
Højlund coming back and being strong again and looking like he's fully physically fit. Yeah. Happy with that. Mazraoui, I think, will keep growing into that role. I think he will probably be, when Shaw and Malacia come back, again, two other bright points, Malacia coming back soon. When Shaw and Malacia come back, I think Davo's out of that team. Davo is gone. He won't be playing in that team again, because I think Mazraoui has kept that position for himself, and he will continue to do that. And then that is basically it. Garnacho, when he comes on, he still looks good. To take Rashford off at half time, I didn't watch the whole game. I only watched the extended highlights. So to take Rashford off at half time, after scoring a goal and assisting a goal, and you could get the sense that Porto players, when he got on the ball, were scared. They were backpedaling. Nothing worse than a defender wants to do than run back towards his own goal, because they know that that's when they get in trouble. To take him off at half time because of he wasn't performing well defensively, Erik Ten Hag's words, not mine, I think it just goes to show he hasn't a clue about man management. I
That was
think
crazy.
he's easy. I think his man management style is my way or the highway, and he's unwilling to change, and that will be a source of his downfall as well.
No, that was nuts. That was nuts. When I was watching the game, I was like, because at halftime on Twitter, you can see like everyone was like, okay, Garnacho's warming up. So I kept on thinking, who's he gonna come on for? I thought it was gonna be like either Ahmad or Højlund, because Højlund can't play like the 90 minutes. Yeah, then when I saw it was Rashford, the only thing that made sense was that he's injured or he picked up a knock or something. But taking him off
But
after, yeah, no, it was crazy. Like he took him off just because I think he didn't track back. That's the only thing.
so he gave a couple of different reasons. Like, Rashford's never tracked back properly. He needs Shaw there to be able to have that kind of link down the left hand side. I completely agree. Like, it's like taking away one of his legs when you take Shaw away. But then Ten Hag said it was because of he didn't defend very well. Then he said he needs him for the weekend because we've got a tough game.
I
Like,
don't
which one
think
is
Ten
it?
Hag actually. I don't think Ten Hag said anything about his defending in the press con or anything. I don't
He
think he brought
did.
that up. Are you
He
sure?
did. Yeah, he did. He did.
I'm not sure.
Let me find it now.
The only thing I saw was he kept on mentioning rotation and because even Garnacho's playing well, and that's the only thing he mentioned. But
about rotation.
yeah,
So he criticised Rashford's defending after the Porto draw. He played a part in the first goal. That's what he was talking about. He said
he said that.
the exact quote is, "I need to review the game, but defensively we were lacking, particularly on the left side, and Marcus was part of that issue. However, bringing Garnacho on was planned, and it wasn't solely about Rashford. We need to keep our players fresh for the tough encounter against Villa on Sunday," which just seems like rubbish.
No, I didn't see
He's
that actually. Yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't make sense. No, yeah, I agree. Like the left side was like we kept on conceding all the chances from the left side. They kept on playing that ball over like in the channel and our left hand
Mm.
channel. So and Delo was always further up the pitch. Delo has had a read about.
I think he's being asked. So against Crystal Palace, where it looked like we turned a corner and that we was just lacking a goal. Against Palace, when he was playing as the inverted winger or wing back, sorry, him and Mazraoui fill in that midfield slot, which is great when it comes off. But it's so easy to play against, as you say, play that ball over the top, and it's gone. And Dallo, because he's in that position and because he fancies himself as a midfielder now, he doesn't bother tracking back. He's like, well, I'm up here. I'm doing my other duties. Like, this is what I'm doing. And that's the only reason why I can see why he's not busting a gut to get back.
Why would he not at least sprint back when, like for example for the first goal? Like what's he doing? Why is he jogging back?
It's
I don't
mental
get it.
frailty.
And
Mental
it's
frailty.
literally the first minute of the game. It's not even the first minute. Like, how do you draw? Like, that was crazy. Like, when I watched it back, like it makes your blood boil. Like, what are you doing? It's your player.
Mm.
It's even if it was like the striker, for example, drifting wide, and like
Mm.
going to the far post, I'd get it. Maybe he wouldn't have thought, oh, it's not my player. But it's literally the right winger. So like, it's literally your player. Why would you not track back? Like, why would you not sprint? And he had a lot of time to do it. Like it doesn't make sense. Like these players, I don't know. I don't know. They just don't get what it means to play for this club. Sometimes they don't get what this uh, shirt means, and then all they do is play really bad, and then like every game, and then after the game go to the changing rooms and just they can't wait to post something. Oh, good, like I don't know, solid effort. Thank you for your support or whatever. No one cares. That's another point that we can discuss. Like these players, because after the game, yeah, after the Porto game, everyone was posting as if we won, as if like it was a good thing.
But I think this cheery end to this section leads us nicely into another cheery bit about Eric Ten Hag and his future. I did a little bit of research, which is unlike me. I've got the top five bookies' favourites, accumulative bookies' favourites for who would be in charge should Ten Hag get fired. Okay, top five. Do you want to guess the
I
five
can probably guess
candidates?
them. I can probably guess
Okay.
them in order.
Whoa, let's go then. Let's go.
All right, so the first
Are we
one is
going
Giroud.
first? Let's go last to first.
Yeah, I think I just joined it. Okay, last. It's very probably I don't know. Last probably Oli.
Solskjaer.
Yeah, who's fifth?
Okay, so tell me the five names. Tell me the five
All right.
candidates, and then we'll do the order.
So
Yeah.
or probably Zidane. Probably I don't know. Okay, so the five are Ruud,
Yeah.
Tuchel,
Mm-hmm.
Nagelsmann,
Mm-hmm.
Inzaghi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the fifth I'm not sure about. Like it's probably Zidane or
Okay.
who's it?
So you got two
Two out of
out
five?
of two out of the five bookies' favourites. Yes. Yes. Do you want me to tell you in order which ones it is?
You can go like yeah,
From
fifth
from from
first.
from fifth to first. So in reverse order, we have Graham Potter, at 14 to 1.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
Kieran McKenna at 10 to 1. Tuchel, 6 to 1.
Hmm.
Southgate, 3 to 1.
No, no,
And
no.
then Van Nistelrooy, 2 to 1, but obviously because he's already there.
No, no way. No way they go for Southgate or Potter, I think. No way.
That's the odds favourites across many bookies across the world. But I
That's
think
how they
they
make
live
the
in
money.
a exactly. They live in a different world than we do.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even when I was researching that, I was doing like a little cursory look at different like Manchester United websites and The Guardian and Athletic and places like that. And there were names that were coming up that weren't on that list. Potter, not a chance. Absolutely no chance of just sliding straight in there from being out in the wilderness to come into the United job. No, not having it.
Mhm.
Southgate has that connection because Ineos, like they
Yeah,
like him.
but
Dave Brailsford quite likes
the,
him. I think
the
Dan
Athletic
Ashworth
came
quite
out.
likes him.
I think the Athletic kept on repeating that he's never been an
Yeah,
option.
exactly. So even when I was looking, it was like Thomas Frank was mentioned, Inzaghi was mentioned. Who else was mentioned?
Nagelsmann.
Uh, no, Nagels. Well, I didn't see Nagelsmann mentioned, but you've probably seen it somewhere else. Who was the other person? Oh, you told me the other day. You sent me a message about it. The Fulham manager, Marco Silva.
Oh, Marcus Silva, yeah.
Yeah, that he was going to be the a possible choice for that. There was every other name that you can think of that's out in the market right now, but the only ones that were on that list in the bookies' favourites were Tuchel and Van Nistelrooy. That's it. It's the reason why we're talking about this, and obviously we kind of mentioned it right at the beginning, is because it's kind of getting to that untenable point of view now, right? It's getting to the situation where a decision has to be made, and I think it's easier, and this is just modern football, it's easier to get rid of one person than it is to get rid of 15 players. And I think he needs to be saved from himself because he's never going to give up. He's never going to walk away from this. What manager does, What manager, I mean, outwardly to the press, what manager ever says, this isn't for me anymore? Because they want to keep their profile high for whatever their next job is. But the fact that he keeps repeating the same thing over and over again, he keeps saying, when questioned about the form of the team, I've won 2 trophies. Great. If you was manager of, I don't know, a mid-table team, which we currently are, if you was manager of a mid-table team, a Villa a few seasons ago before Emery, a Newcastle, any of those teams, and you won 2 trophies, brilliant, amazing. Get that, get a statue outside the stadium for that. But we're Manchester United, and that's not the standards that we keep. The standards that we keep is competing on all fronts in every competition. And when I know this is like looking back in history, but we've always done this. We got criticised for missing out on the FA Cup that time because we had so many competitions to play in. We chose the one that was going to be more financially suitable and to test ourselves on a bigger stage in the Club World Cup. That's Manchester United. It always will be Manchester United. We're not this team that wins the League Cup one season, FA Cup next season, and we go and shout it from the rooftops. Yes, those victories are great, but as Ferguson always said, with every great team that he had, it was as soon as that result was done, right, motivate them for the next one. Motivate them to do even better next year after the treble. There's passages from former players, from Ferguson himself, from coaching staff, from anyone associated with the club. When they won that Champions League, it was great, moment in heaven. But then he had to motivate them to do better that following season because that was his job. And if people like Benny McCarthy, who was a coach at Manchester United and was let go at the beginning of this season, Benny McCarthy's coming out and saying he lacks the passion. He's a great tactical manager, but he lacks passion.
Yeah.
That is damning. that is damning. How are you supposed to get motivated by a guy that can't fire himself up?
I think that's part of the issue that we have. Yeah. Like you don't feel the players are motivated enough, even though they want to be, or even if they claim that they are. But like if you feel their heads drop way too easily, I don't know. I just compare him to Klopp, for example, who's like, yeah, one of the best probably motivators there is. But you just feel the players, the system they play needs someone like him to, fill the players with this fire to just keep on running, running, running. And I think Ten Hag system needs that as well, but it just can't make them run. And he's just, I don't know. I really like him. I really like Ten Hag. I've never wanted him out, even up until like probably like last week. I was never saying, yeah, he should leave. But like you said, it's getting to a point where I can't see any other solution because we're still in October. So if you wanna just keep on, okay, if you wanna throw this season away and just stick with this manager and just to stick with this process and see what would happen the next few years with him. Okay, you can do that, but this season is a write-off from now. We can't expect anything to change. Like if something was gonna change, it would have changed already. It would have changed the Spurs game. It would have changed in the Porto game. It would have changed already. It might change for a few games, then it's gonna come back to exactly where we are right now. And I don't know if we can like just stick with him, write another season off, because technically last season was a write-off. Okay, we won the FA Cup,
Mm,
but like it was like the league is always the standard. The league is always the indication of how well the team is. Many teams, like you said, like many teams can Wigan won the FA Cup the same
mm.
season they got relegated. So any team can go on a cup run, get lucky with some draws, get lucky with some decisions, and just because it's a one-off game, you can win. But the league, a 38 game season, it actually shows where we are in the process, like how
Mm.
the progress is going, and we've seen since last season and this season, yeah, it doesn't look good. So, and we have the
I think
players to
when
do it.
I think when you add those things up that you're talking about, like the most consistent thing about Manchester United is the inconsistency. So you don't know what you're getting from game to game. You just don't know how it's going to play out. And when you add these things up, like we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but if McCarthy's coming out and saying he lacks passion, if he can't really motivate his players, as you just said, to play his formation, if he's constantly I think it's more to do with frustration that he singles out players now. I think it's frustration. I think that's it's all he's got left, you know? Marcus couldn't defend. Jaden doesn't do well in training. Like I think all of these things, when you put them all together into a character, that person you're not going to run through walls for. You're not going to be motivated to do your best for, no matter what formation you're playing, because you're being told probably, like apparently they didn't have any harsh words after that 3-0 defeat. It was, oh, tomorrow's another game. Not having that. I'm not having that at all. That is loser talk. That's cup
Exactly.
winner talk. Okay. Trophies, yes, he'll be remembered for the trophies, but we'll also remember the absolute slide of quality that he has brought to the pitch for paying season ticket holders that go to those games every single week. That's what we'll remember him for when he does finally leave the club. And I just think right now, because I've leaned towards I've swung between the two. Get him out, let's have a change, and then keep him. I don't want to be Chelsea. Right, that's the issue. I don't want to be a club that constantly changes managers over and over and over again, even though it's modern football. But like I'm 43. I had the best part of my supporting of Manchester United with consistency of like Ferguson for a good chunk of that. And now I don't want this rotating door of these different managers coming in with different philosophies and changing things. And I guess with a sporting structure in place now, with Dan Ashworth, with Omar Barada, with Jason Wilcox, there's a contingency plan, not contingency plan. There's a continuity between how the club will play. So when they're getting a new manager in, it's like, this is how we play here. So
Yeah.
can you feel that? Yes, we can. Yes, I can. Okay, fine. You know, that's modern football. Fine. Let's do it. But at this moment in time, in fact, I'm going to ask you, at this moment in time, does Ten Hag stay for you or does he go during this international break?
I I haven't. For me, I think he should go. I'm like, I think I've been thinking over about this for the past, I don't know, the past week, the past 2 weeks also. I never thought like, yeah, that would fix anything, letting him go. But after seeing those like results, how we're playing, everything, I think that's the only thing that could change something. Because I would have thought that he would, for example, after the Spurs game, I would have thought that he would change something for the Porto game, for example, because now the pressure is on him.
Mm.
Um, and like everyone's saying, you have those 2 games to save your job, and he didn't. I don't feel he actually changed anything, and he made things way worse because by taking off like the only player who was actually creating something and taking him off at halftime. Like he's digging his own hole, as they say. So I
I
don't
wonder
know.
if
I don't know.
it's interesting actually, like just on a trying to look at it from a completely different perspective, but maybe this is all part of his plan. You
Yeah, I
know,
was thinking
just
that as
just
well.
just annoying everyone, sticking with what he wants to do, being pragmatic, like never changing his style of play, always sticking with his principles, backing himself to win trophies as he always has done, because he's got an eye on when I leave this club, and it's going to happen when I leave this club and I get fired or whatever it is. A, if they fire me, I get 17 million. Brilliant. You know, that's fantastic payoff.
Mm.
And B, if I keep rattling that same tin about the fact that I've won 2 trophies in 2 seasons, people won't forget that. The Ten Hag brand, as much as like the players in the changing rooms, as much as we get on them for posting straight after the game and going, "Oh, don't worry, guys, Mason Mount. Don't worry, guys, I'm fine. Yeah,
Oh
I've
my
had a few
God.
stitches in my head." Like, lad, then wasn't the time to be posting that. You've just been absolutely stuffed by Spurs at home. Don't be posting about having stitches in your head. Like no one's worried about you to that extent. And it just Ten Hag could be playing that long game or short game, so to speak, where he gets sacked, gets paid off, gets a new job, and alas, he's had a brilliant time.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he did that. That's just, yeah, you mean like it's just easy money.
Yeah, and it's modern football.
Uh,
Just as
that's
much as
exactly
they
what
don't care about
uh,
him.
that's exactly what Mourinho does.
Mm. He's made a
Yeah,
fantastic career out of it.
yeah. So what about you? What do you think? Like, is he in or is he out?
For me personally, I think it's time he's gone. It's time to save him from himself. It's time to let him go. Like again, you can like him as a person, brilliant. He's won a couple of trophies, brilliant. But I just feel like the more he stays in the job, the worse it's going to be for him. So I think it's time for a change. Do I think Ashworth, Wilcox, and Brada have the stones to do it? Not really, no, because I feel like they will think that it's too early in the season to be making a decision like this, and it may show them in a light that they're not quite prepared for yet. So they might come across as knee jerking in this situation. But you touched on this, or we talked about this before when we was talking about the like who should be in charge, and Van Nistelrooy being the number one choice. I get it because he would go from assistant manager to moving across a seat and sitting in the manager's chair in the dugout. And I think I've spoke about this before. What's he doing? What's he doing at the club right now? He's having impact on this team, right? He must be saying something. He must be doing something. These coaches that we brought in to help out, what are they doing? Because we've got worse.
I think both those coaches, like Ruud and Rene Hack, I think both of them fall under the same philosophy of Ten Hag, which is why he's the one who wanted them in. It wasn't the board who recommended them. So it was Ten Hag who asked for them because I think Ruud used to play like a similar way at PSV.
Mm.
So I think they're trying to play the system, which is not wrong, which is I don't think it's a bad idea to have one system and just doing everything just to perfect it,
Mm.
which would make it easier for the players understanding everything. But when it's not working, it's not working. And I think what's, I don't know, I don't want to generalize, but maybe what all three of them have in common is they're not
Mm.
pragmatic enough.
Yeah.
Like Eric, Ruud, and Rene Haake, they're not pragmatic, so they're not accommodating to what the team needs, which is why we're in this mess.
Predicting the next, what would happen if he did get fired during the October international break? Predicting what would happen, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I'll say we'll get the feel good factor of having Rude in place for about 3 months, maybe up until January. Then we will have the team reverting to type because that's what they do. And then it will be, will he, won't he stay at the end of the season, and we'll end up replacing him with Tuchel. That's what I think. Because I don't think we can afford to. We won't get a new manager in. We won't be. I don't think we can afford it financially to bring another manager in if we fire Ten Hag, because I think it affects PSR, transfer budget in January, everything. So I don't think we can pay off Ten Hag and then have another manager come in like Tuchel. So it'll be Van Nistelrooy until the end of the season. But that's how I see it. He will be caretaker manager, and then we'll be in that situation of, like with Solskjaer, has he done enough to keep the job? Should we give it him? Fans like him, and then that's when we come back to this whole Solskjaer to Ten Hag feeling again. Right, we are going to attempt to do an Aston Villa preview. I mean, we can do an Aston Villa preview. We're going to attempt to do a slightly positive Aston Villa preview. Are we? Should we end on a good note?
Predictions, 3-0 Villa?
Oh, jeez.
I don't know.
John Durant to come on in the 70th minute and score a hat trick.
I've got him in my fantasy this week.
Have you
Activated my wild
now?
card. Yeah.
No, I did mine about 3 weeks ago, mate. Maybe more than that. I had Harvey Elliott in my original
Yeah.
team, and Kwanzaa. Jeez, it was an
Liverpool as
absolute
well.
disaster. Ahmad,
Yeah, he's on
I
the
put him
bench
in
now.
last week. Yeah,
He's on the
yeah,
bench.
exactly. Brilliant. It's the curse. It's the curse. So, Villa away, Villa Park could be a defining moment. We say this every week. It could be a defining moment for Ten Hag, though. Does he change his system, or does he dig his heels in further and keep his same players that started against Porto?
I think the side that he was trying to play, for example, against Palace, I think Eriksen is gonna play again. I'm not sure if Ugarte is gonna come in. Casemiro was so bad against Porto. So I think no way Casemiro starts. I don't know if Kobe is fit enough yet. I'm not sure. If Kobe is fit enough, I think he's gonna play the same team that played against Palace, and Ten Hag's gonna hope. But like whatever we play, I think we're gonna get overrun in midfield. Like whoever we play, however we play, we're gonna get
Mm.
overrun midfield because it's just how it is. Like the difference in like profiles, they're physical, they're fast. Our players are not.
Mm.
I don't think it matters much, to be honest. I think it's gonna try to, I don't know, just to get a result in any way possible, but I just don't see it.
if there is one positive thing to have about this Villa fixture is that I think we've only lost once there in 10 games at Villa Park.
Are we?
Yeah, I think so. There's a crazy stat about it that was going about the other
Was
day.
it
It's
Emery's
not
first game?
yeah, yeah. I think we beat them.
Cristiano? No, I think we. No, Emery's first game when he came in, it was the 3-1, I think.
Oh right,
When,
okay. I think
yeah, I
it was
think
like
that was good.
yeah. Yeah. Maybe it was home and away, but I think we haven't lost we've only lost like once to them in a long time.
Yeah, I've been thinking of it. Like, I think Ten Hag's record against Emery last season, he won twice against him. The season before, we won the game at Old Trafford 1-0.
Yeah.
So let's see. Like, the way Villa are playing, beating Bayern. I don't know.
Yeah. We're grasping at straws here. We are grasping at straws. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. What do you think the score will be?
Honestly, I think it's gonna be 2-0 Villa.
2-0 to Villa.
Yeah.
I think it could be an absolute disaster class from United, and I think it could be as bad as 4-0, 4-1.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I wouldn't.
I think we'll start off looking slightly more positive than we did against Spurs. I think we'll look a little bit more compact to start out with. And for the first 5-10 minutes, we'll look like we might be able to do something, and then we'll concede, and then we'll concede, and then we'll concede, and then we'll concede another one in the 70th minute from Duran. And then that'll be it. All over and done with. And this is where we are as Manchester United fans now.
Yeah, it's
Because
another
man,
Watford result for Ole. Like
yeah.
the exact Watford result. Yeah, Villa. I don't know.
Oh
Like, could
God.
be the same.
Yeah.
I can see that happening. Suddenly turn up, like win somehow. Like, I don't know. It could go either way. This is the thing with this
Okay.
team.
Let me ask you a question then. Right. Say Ten Hag pulls it out of the bag, right? And that wasn't supposed to rhyme, but I'll go with it. Say Ten Hag pulls it out of the bag. Do you think he gets a stay of execution then? Do you think this should prolong his time as manager because he's won one result out of the last four? Is it five? Barnsley was the last win, right?
Yeah. So Barnsley, then Palace, Spurs, Porto, and this one. So yeah, won in the last five.
So if he wins this, do you think he gets to stay on?
The
Well,
only
let's
reason
let's do it.
he
Let's
should.
let's split it into two. Sorry, let's split it into two. One, do you think he will stay? And then the second part, do you think he should stay? So, do you think he will stay if he gets the win at Villa?
The only reason I think he would stay after Villa, even if we lost, is that the board decided not to base their decision on whatever happens, like these two games. Because if they did, we haven't been hearing anything. Like, usually a lot of reports come out
There's a meeting,
um,
isn't there? Next week,
on
there's a meeting
Tuesday.
with all
Yeah,
the
but
hierarchy.
that was pre-planned already. Like it's been
Mm,
planned for a long time. So I don't think it's just gonna be for that. I don't think they would base their decision to keep him or like sack him on these two games. I
okay.
wouldn't think that would make sense. So if we
And then
lost,
your personal opinion, if he wins.
if he wins, no, I don't think it should
Mhm.
stay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. You can't. They're gonna do the same mistake they did last season. So they were about to sack him, and then he won the FA Cup final, and they decided to keep him. But you can't just base a decision on 90 minutes. It doesn't make sense.
I
What about you?
mean, just going back to that, like I think you're correct in saying that they kept him after the FA Cup. But I think the only reason they kept him after the FA Cup was because they couldn't agree terms with Tuchel. That's the only reason they kept him.
Yeah,
They
probably.
were ready to let him go, and that's the perfect time. Once there's a takeover in any business, the easiest time and the most cost-effective time to do any clear out is right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, when you want new people, new ideas, do it then before they can infect the rest of the team and the new people that you're bringing in, and they didn't do it for whatever reason. For me, if he wins at Villa, I think that will be enough for Ineos to say, or they're not Ineos anymore, for United to say he's fine. Let's just keep him, because if he can pull out, if he can get more consistent wins like that against Villa, a team that has improved markedly under Emery, then brilliant, fantastic. Do I think he should stay? Absolutely not. Based on that result, based on winning. Like, it would be good for United fans to have that. And I almost think, and I know this sounds like a really low bar for him, but if he left, or if he was fired after beating Villa, I think we'd remember him more fondly than if he got stuffed and then got fired.
I don't know. It's a mess. It's a mess. I just don't think this result should determine anything for him, for the board.
True.
It would make them seem indecisive. And I think they should have just, if they wanted to sack him, they should have done that already. They shouldn't have given him until now.
Just one last thing on this. And we're kind of going back to the previous section where we were talking about him being replaced, but there's a report, not a report, it's just fact. Ashworth has never sacked a manager before.
Interesting.
Not in a, like, that's his thing. Like, he just doesn't fire managers, but he's never had the experience of firing a manager before. So I think for him and Barada and Wilcox, I think there's going to be a very difficult conversation to be had about whether or not this is the person that they need to guide their vision. And it's quite obvious he isn't the person. So it will be interesting to see what happens over the international break. But if I had to put money on it, whether he will still be in charge come the next game after the international break, I'm going to say no. There we have it then. Another gloomy podcast about Manchester United. It covered a lot of things. Felt quite cathartic, if I'm honest. Nice to get these things off our chest, right?
Yeah, we need them.
Exactly. Hopefully the listeners will feel a bit of that as well. Speaking of listeners, we do have a new newsletter that we're going to be launching next week, and we have a sign-up process through our email address. Ahmed, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you remember what our email address is?
fergiesgumpodcast@gmail.com.
Hey, perfect. I don't know. I should probably check, but basically we are going to have a newsletter, which is kind of just, it's a roundup of our thoughts and feelings about Manchester United. It's also a little bit about Manchester United news around the world, around the web, old news, old players, new players, current squad members, and just little things that are happening in the world of sport as well. And it's just another little added thing for the podcast, more immersive. They call it meta. I think they call it meta, don't they? Who knows? But yeah. So do sign up for that. Send your emails to
fergiesgumpodcast@gmail.com.
Perfect. So send your emails there if you want to sign up for it, and then we'll add you to the newsletter. It should go out every Friday. We're just trying to determine that frequency right now, so it should be a weekly thing. But yeah, please do sign up for that. And thanks for listening as well. I've noticed that the listener count has gone up. We haven't done any real promotion for it, but I've noticed that the numbers are going up. So there's people out there listening to us. If you go to Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere that they have like a review system, if you could leave us a review, then that'd be great. A 5-star one, not a 1-star one. So thanks for listening again, and we shall speak to you again next week.
Next week.
Bye.